I'm sure I don't need to introduce this lady to most of the people here, but this is Janet Kuypers. She's a force on the poetry scene wherever she goes to. She's been an editor, a publisher, a host, a poet, a widely published poet, a popepreneur, and we're glad to have her here tonight, and Chicago misses you, and thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me back. Thank you.
This is Janet Kuypers. Let's give her a big, big round of applause.
Thank you very much for that. You are the best. I hope it doesn't turn off.
Hi there. I've missed you. Hello. I would like to say that I decided to come here with a couple of new book releases through Scarce Publications, and I made a New Year's resolution in 2019 to write a poem every day. And I'm like, that's a challenge, and sometimes there'd be something short and sweet, and friends Avram through Robin's like, hey, they want tweets for periodic table poems, and I'm like, hey, I can do that, and that will be quicker. So I was doing some of those too, but I've been coming up with a lot of things. I'm trying to come up with ideas, and I would look for things, and I'm like, well, what do I write about now? And I thought, well, why don't I look and see if there are any holidays today or something to that effect. And I had written so many things for different holidays of the year that John actually suggests to make Volume 1 and Volume 2. So after this first 6 months of 2019, Scarce Publications released the book Every Event of the Year. This is Volume 1, January through June.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of stuff in here, man. Like, if you want to know about, like, National Sword Swallowing Day, there's something in here about that. There are a lot of holidays and weird old events for the year. And so there are lots of things, from a poem about Lent to a couple things for Atheist Pride Day. So it's all over the place with stuff. And I thought I would read some from here from you. Also from my other book of shorter pieces that I had done. If people remember from a year or two ago, I released books called Pharaoh Memes, not pheromones, because it could be attracted to someone's pheromones, but maybe it'd be attracted to my words or my memes. This is Volume 3 of Pharaoh Memes, of haiku, Instagram, Twitter, and poetry, and I thought, I'm tired of my mug on it, why don't I show my class picture from kindergarten for the cover of it. And so I will share things from both of these books for you. This first poem I'd like to share with you is actually in both of them. But since I said I was going to start with this one, I am going to read this first poem from this book for you. It is written on and for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it is called Our Color, Our Gender, Our Creed. Oh, I'm hoping that John would play some music, because I had some background music, and I was hoping to share it with you. It's really quiet, but this is music that was from him that he had done in Nashville. So I hope that's quiet and not too loud, and I hope that works just for good background stuff for you. As I said, this one is called Our Color, Our Gender, Our Creed. There is a house inside of me. It's a house with a rich heritage, brimming with the knowledge of how our souls have flourished and how it could be so quickly taken away. There is a house inside of me that has had to shut down to hide everything away because those who don't look like me decided that I was nothing and treated me accordingly. There's a house inside of me. Its pulse has an infectious rhythm that we've had to stifle to hide from your generic white-bread world. We only let it out when we're alone to save us from your madness. There is a house inside of me. I've hidden it away. I've sealed it up and placed it deep within, brimming with my history and my future. And I don't let it out when people can't think of me as human. There is a house inside of me. I put boards over the windows to save myself from your storm. With your wrath, I've got to learn to not fight back, only because my captor won't let me. There is a house inside of me, and this house will stand strong even after you have raped me, beaten me, tortured me, tried to kill me, treated me as nothing. But you were so wrong. There is a house inside of me, and what you don't understand is that this house will outlast yours. Trust me, if your house is built on distrust and such blatant disrespect, then your house is bound to collapse. Because after all this time, and after my wanting to fight, I have learned that passive resistance is only a part of my story. Because in these struggles, I have gained a wisdom and a connection that is beyond this house that is inside of me, beyond this sharing, this inquisitive mentality. So what I want you to remember is this. This house is a symbol for all like me and for all those not like me too. Because I have a dream that everyone who has suffered like this, and even those who have not, should share their stories with all of the world, no matter our color, our gender, our creed. This is my dream, because this is how we truly grow. Thank you. I have decided to share strange holidays with you, and I'm mixing them up. This one is in February, and it was because of the day of the Reichstag fire before World War II. So this is called We Didn't Start the Fire. Precisely 4 weeks after Adolf Hitler was sworn in as Chancellor of Germany, Germany's parliament building, the Reichstag, was set on fire. And Adolf Hitler, what a fortunate happenstance this was. And all I could do is just pass the Reichstag fire decree. It stated that all communists, since one started this fire, were against Germany, which cemented Nazi Germany and made him become actually the Fuhrer. Fortunate happenstance for Adolf Hitler indeed, or was it a well-orchestrated plot by the German government, making the Reichstag fire synonymous with a red flag, a ruse to fool a country into condemning a false enemy so that they actually support their true enemy instead? This is how the masses of the decrepit Adolf Hitler actually orchestrated his way to power. Documents unraveled after the end of World War II, plus information revealed during the Nuremberg trial, shows that Hermann Goering may have started the Reichstag fire. Needing a patsy was easy when they found this unstable Dutch communist, Marinus van der Lubbe, and man, did Hitler really hate those communists. I mean, the story just seems to be writing itself. And you're probably now thinking that we're going to go on a tirade about, concentration camps, or the twisted experiments of Dr. Mengele, or the twisted sadistic acts of the chicken farmer who was too weak to actually get even admitted into the army. But no, Himmler and the SS weren't even around back when the Reichstag burned to the ground. This was when just the seeds were planted in the German government. The seeds no one wanted, but after defeat after World War I. However, those seeds were planted and growing deep within the mind of Hitler, who no one fully understood, even when he wrote his rambling diatribes in Mein Kampf, while serving his prison in for ducking and covering instead of actually fighting after the beer hall putsch. But don't think that they didn't aggrandize his failed attempts to overthrow the government, because this megalomaniacal savior was what the women all flocked to and adored. And maybe that was why he could never actually marry a woman. He was only married to the fatherland, which may explain his quote-unquote love affair with his niece. But after she killed herself 2 years before the Reichstag fire, Hitler only settled for meek women that were well hidden. On the surface, the rise of Nazi Germany only existed because of a series of curious and fortunate happenstances. But look into each of these inexplicable events, and a different story unfolds altogether, of careful planning, of careful propaganda. Because even Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, said that his best propaganda was Adolf Hitler himself and creating that short-term myth. You didn't think you were getting a history lesson at the same time, did you? Guess what? Now it's going to be a science lesson because this seems to be a fortunate jump. This one was written on March 14th, 3.14. 15, well, that's Pi Day, yeah, somebody saw that one. But this is actually the same day as Albert Einstein's birthday. Oh, science, what? This is called Vortices Indenting Our World. Yesterday, I enjoyed reveling in the knowledge about Albert Einstein since yesterday was his birthday, March 14th. And I was sitting there and I was reflecting on his past and on his scruffy misdemeanor. I mean, why even worry about, grooming yourself when you actually are defining the laws of nature? And redefining he did. I mean, I can understand equating the bending of space-time like a vortex indenting any surface, but my mind won't bend or comprehend the slowing or speeding of time. But then again, I'd only be able to see that for certain if I ever actually got too close to a black hole, standing on one piece of this uncertain, unchanging thing to change in the first place. So I'm not even going to worry about it anymore. But anyway, as I was saying, yesterday was a great day for reveling in science, thanks to a man who had to leave Nazi Germany, fearing his formulas would actually be created, used to help annihilate the entire history of mankind. I know that this pacifist chose to write to the U.S. president asking him to not only make this bomb before Germany did. This weighed heavily on his mind, and I just hope that it wasn't so heavy, making him unable to make additional leaps of a physicist's faith, because one physicist did, Stephen Hawking, who's battling not only the science world, but also ALS, living much longer than my friend did, who even got to use the same voice box as him. I thought, well, this was a great story, but yesterday, this was amazing. I found out that on March 14th, the amazing thing was that these two scientific minds could actually create, but then I realized, when I reflected on this wonders of Albert Einstein on this day of his birth, it was also the wonder of Stephen Hawking, the day that he passed away. Wow, what gravity a single day can take to the scientific world, as well as to the world's goals as a whole. One day, a day most correlate now with the beginning of the number for pi, but 3.14 is also a day that means much, much more than just equations. It is also more about the greatest recent scientific minds opening the world to more than just equations. Trust me. All right, this one's a fun one too. They actually called it March 4th and Do Something Day. So this is for March 4th, and it is titled March 4th. When things seem to be at their worst, march forth and try to make a difference. After you counsel rape victims, fought for women's rights, come together in a Take Back the Night rally. March forth to support women's rights to feel safe when walking home alone outside at night without meeting the man by their side. March forth when you see a political injustice in how a government treats its citizens, even if it means you have to stand in the square to confront an army tank by yourself. March forth for your rights. It gives you strength, and hopefully, maybe, the government will actually notice. Collect money from support for the marching forth to help your loved ones who suffer from breast cancer, diabetes, ALS, AIDS. Feel free to march forth confidently into your boss's office as a woman, and you know you deserve more pay for better than equal work against your male coworkers. March forth to get answers when your family hides truths from you that you are positive you have the right to know. It may torture you to learn these things, but it may be something you don't want to believe. But knowing this truth is worth 1,000 marches, because this is the most dignified, the most stable, even the most healthy way to start to make change. Thank you. I talk about this book a lot, and I should tell you that this book, as well as the next book I'm going to read from, they are $10.99 and $11.99. I've got proof copies of these things right here. They would end up costing more when you're $3.50 in shipping and handling and taxes, because you know your state has to take money from you. But you can have any of these proof copies that I have on either one of these books tonight for $10. What did she just say? Just $10? You're kidding me. You're blowing my mind. Or buy me 2 beers, and that would be about the same thing as well. And if you want a book, you will also get, I will give you a signed copy of this chapbook that I was released right before I left from here, from Water of Life Press. Unzip the body bag. It's got a bunch of cooler older pieces, and you can have some signed thing. And you can say, oh my God, I've got these signed numbered copies. I am so elite to be able to have these original things like this. Sorry, I'm done selling my stuff.
But before I go into the second book, I thought I would share with you
A poem that I just wrote while on the road, which is why I don't have a hard copy of it. And it is actually something I am going to be doing at a feature in 2 days in Dripping Springs, Texas. You heard me right, Dripping Springs, Texas. And it is going to be the first poem. And because it's all about journeys and the like, so I'm going to give myself some train sound effects to go along with this. Hopefully that'll work for you. This is called Journeys on a Train. Traveling across the country on the train, I have listened to the rhythmic rock as the engine rolled cars from one state to the next, giving us passengers a sunlit slice of America. Driving out at night to an abandoned road on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, we found train tracks parallel to the quieted road and listened to crickets chirp to the rumbling freight trains. There is rhythmic beauty to the sound of a train rolling down those tracks, from engine noise to the wheels turning on the railroad tracks to that classic clickety-clack noise. You know, a train may give you the feeling that you're going on a big adventure, but to me, the unique sound of the L train, the commuter running the loop in downtown Chicago and then giving passengers rides to every angle of the city to commute, to shop, or to be social, I'm telling you, the L train noise is different from any other train I know. And after leaving Chicago, after being pushed away, coming back and hearing that train truly pulls on my heartstrings, because the train can remind me, it might remind the average Joe of a beautiful adventure, but hearing the L train consoles me and reminds me of being home. What a beautiful journey the train can be, but this one train reminding you of home is a perfect memory. Because you're all from here, you're probably thinking, I can't stand that L train sound. What are you talking about? But, you know, you're going to miss it in time. Trust me.
But anyway, I was going to share with you a couple poems
From the other book, my Pharaoh Memes book. The beauty of this book is not only are there longer poems on it, but also shorter ones. And with it, there are large images I will just happen to open up. If I've got Instagram photos that are up on Twitter or whatever, I've got them in here too. And if I've got these shorter poems, I thought, why not make them all 14 points instead of 12 points? Well, they're much easier to read, especially in lower light in a bar like this. So I was going to share with you a few poems randomly from here for you. I don't even know if I should give titles. I'll start with this one. I like my haiku one. A poet walks into a cafe, saw haiku poets, and he thought, the haiku one, exactly. This one, actually, I'm going to read for you. It's a longer poem. And afterward, and you will get why, I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to turn around and take a selfie of myself with you guys on the background. And if anybody's got a cell phone and wants to do the same thing, and my camera might actually catch it, I would double plus love it. You have no idea. Because this poem, and in fact, there's a picture of me reading it once in my life where I'm doing a selfie with the audience doing a selfie at the same time. This poem is called Popular and Useless. A part of us wants to be famous. We want everyone to know and love us. If I'm wrong, explain to me the selfie stick. But think about it. The most popular things, I mean more popular than people, are products. Coke, Harley, Kodak, Levi's, Nike, even 7-Eleven. And all these things are so much more known than you or me. All these things are so popular, and they're also empty. They have no substance. So maybe the selfie stick was a good idea anyway. It actually made sense. If we could all be more popular, if we all want to be more famous, maybe we've got to learn to take our cues for being perfect by being generic and having no substance at all. So let's get the show on this road, and time to turn your camera toward yourself. Open your smile wide, but don't smile too hard because you want to be wrinkle-free. And then you have to have that perfect smile and keep your eyes wide open, but don't squint too much because you have to look picture perfect for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, to show everyone on the surface how you're so picture perfect. But don't bother looking for anything under the surface. Just inject botulism into your face so you can't even show any expressions, because nothing is too far for actual surface beauty. So you want to be known? Then just focus on your outsides and don't even worry about the insides at all. I've got to do this one. I'm going to take a selfie, you guys. I have no idea if this is going to work. Well, but the nice thing is my shirt says the same thing on the back, so it's like, oh my gosh, you guys are so well lit. This is double plus cool. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, yay! I got a picture. I have no idea what I'm here on snaps. You guys are awesome. I'm here on snaps. You guys are awesome. All right, let's see what other ones, or shorter ones in here for you guys. This one is called Quickly Judged. You say you see the writing on the wall, but read between the lines, because when I ever make my mark, I give meaning to that space themselves. And sometimes I scribble more in those tiny spaces than you can see from afar. Even when you take my page, you read and you think you've got me figured out. But how wrong you are when you just glance at the lines of text on ruled paper. You should know that I write between the lines, and I even scribble on those margins. You thought I was so simple, that basic, that I could be so quickly judged. But you only glanced at the writing of my life, and as I said, you never read between the lines to see the true me, where what the things I write about can even sometimes jump off the page. You say you see the writing on the wall, but you only glance, like life is all about taking quick notes. A private investigator might not even be able to research me enough to get the true meaning. So, the next time you see that writing, go ahead. Look closer. This one is called Metamorphosis. Play me some Erasure dance music. Play me some KMFDM industrial music. Play me some Mozart, classical. Play me my life story, whatever that may be. I dyed my hair dark brown. That dark brown hair, I dyed it yellow blonde for years. At other times I dyed it darker, or I relish in red highlights. Sometimes I may wear just enough makeup for the outside world. Other times I would coat my eyes, my lips, my cheeks in black so that I could reveal how I truly feel. I cover myself in men's clothing and wonder why you don't think I'm feminine. So I change my mind at the drop of a hat and embrace the new me. New and improved, totally what you didn't expect. You nor I. Now, I'm just waiting. When the metamorphosis truly begins, will I even know what I've truly become? Thank you.
I'm loving you and leaving you.
Then come up here, I gotta give you a hug. She's leaving me and it makes me stop. No, it's very good to see you, little boy. Thank you.
Okay, love your coach.
They will
I
be
think I'm gonna listen to you tonight on YouTube.
definitely awesome. Thank you, and thank you for coming, Annabelle. I have two more for you. One is a longer one, and that's because I'm talking about Chicago in it. And this one is called Bye. And this one is called Old Stomping Grounds. Stories have been told that when the Chicago Mafia would dispose of bodies a century ago, they would bury them in what is now forest preserves in Chicago's southwest suburbs. A few decades after the Chicago mob had made its mark, scientists developed a first self-sustaining nuclear reactor at the University of Chicago under the west viewing stands of their football stadium. Now, operations for this were only 1 year at this Chicago Pile 1, so it was disassembled and buried at one of the forest preserves in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I doubt my dad was feeling scientific or even thinking about his father-in-law, who did jobs for the mob back in the day. But my dad decided to move out of Chicago and into the southwest suburbs. He could get a ton of land, and his concrete company could help him build a nice home for the family. And it was a nice place to take the kids. It was far enough away from Chicago to still need 50-pound blocks of salt for well water. It was a simpler life, riding our bikes around those nearby forest preserves, and I never got radiation burns there, and I didn't even discover any buried bodies either. So I don't know if it was the mafia or scientists who gentrified this area south and west of Chicago, and I can't say it was my father's doing. But all I know is after he had lived there for a while, his whole town suddenly became so upscale. So this is when I moved back into Chicago. And when I did, very straight me first moved into a very gay neighborhood. Unluckily for me, I couldn't stay there. I had to move. And so I moved not to where all my friends lived, but very white me moved into a very Hispanic neighborhood just north of where the gangs would pick you out because of this color of your skin. And yeah, I lived there for years. The rent was cheap and I had a ton of space, although I got tired of people breaking into my car. It was almost like clockwork. Still, I would walk alone at night and I'd watch my surroundings, and I always stayed safe. I was fine, really, because there was no other place I'd rather be. I've been moved away from Chicago for years now, but recently I went back and visited my old stomping grounds, and I was stunned when I saw the streets of my old neighborhood now lined with martini bars, kitschy shops from local artists, and vegetarian restaurants. And although I don't believe it, that's when I was told that I must come from a long line of gentrifiers. Now, by the strict definition, that's not true. A gentrifier buys old houses and renovates them so that more upscale for people. I don't do that. I just move somewhere and change the neighborhood instead. This is my last one for you guys. I love you all. I had to say it once. This piece is called Eternal, Never-Ending Now. We struggle in our worlds. We contend with regular problems, and we look for relief in any way we can. We think a vacation can temporarily assuage how we feel, and it does. And then it's back to that same old grind, the same never-ending meaninglessness. I know it's hard. I know it seems hopeless. But I want to ask you, can you remember a moment in your life? Can you pause and think of a time in your life, any time, where you felt at peace? It may have seemed a lifetime ago. Maybe it was at a beach at sundown, listening to the waves crash. Maybe it was sitting along a mountainside, watching the little cars driving along down the roads, little tiny roads below. And maybe it was jumping into a vat of soybeans after a farmer said, "Hey, look around the farm," and all you could smell was fresh wheat and dew on all the lush green around you. I won't bring up references to bubble baths or baseball games. Just think back to what works for you and remember it. And what I want you to do is find that moment, and you may realize that times like that, it seemed to just stand still. There was no past, there was no future, there was just an eternal, never-ending now that just didn't end. During that moment, you can't even remember it ending. It was that complete. So, if you can remember those times, if you can reflect on those times, then know that the perfect moment of completeness, of wholeness, is within you. Find it, and know that peace is with you, always.
During this reading, they used to pass the hat, and I thought, okay, we're passing the hats, and we're just trading money back and forth to different people on the poetry scene. But so I don't pass a hat anymore. But to support the poet, buy a book.
Yes.
Okay. If you can't support the poet by buying a book, buy a drink for the poet, or
Just
hand
make a
them
new
money.
book. Thank you very much.
Or just hand them money.
Thank you.
And I'm going to buy a Janet book tonight. So,
Thank you.
so
And you get to
Choose which one you want, or if you got 20, you can buy 2 books. What a bargain!
what a steal! You'd never get them at Amazon.
steal, yes, steal her books.